Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Low Tech Garage. I am Josh, and we're here with another day on the Charger. And we did finally get her a car cover. And apparently a pet. So today's mission is basically going to be to try and see if we can fix the transmission leak. I did identify where it's coming from, and we've got a game plan, and we've already got the parts we need to get it done. And as a bonus, if we have time, we might fiddle around with the fuel system, see if we can't get that locking gas cap off, and poke around inside the tank to see what we're dealing with there before I connect it all up to the actual carb itself. Man, do I love looking at this thing. So the transmission leak was described as basically shooting backwards out of the bottom of the radiator, which means that really there's one very obvious place to check, and that is the fittings down here. So I poked around, I disconnected them because these were threaded on, and it looks like, unfortunately, they had been cross-threaded and basically stripped the threads out on the fittings in the radiator. So the good news is, really, this whole engine and transmission are just temporary anyway, right? So instead of trying to get a whole new expensive radiator, blah, 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 we've decided that we just wanted to get a little external trans cooler for now, bypass that altogether at the bottom of the radiator, and we'll just run a standalone cooler. That should get us on the road more quickly and more cost effectively. And thanks to the magic of Amazon, it literally showed up same day. I want to say it cost me about 23 bucks, and as always, we'll include a link, so if this is helpful to you, you're welcome to just click on that, and it'll take you right to the exact kit that we are using. So I'm going to install it probably somewhere up front here. I'm still poking around to figure out exactly where, because I need to route the lines either maybe around the side. I don't know, it doesn't look like a ton of space. So yeah, I'm just going to stick my head under there and see which is the easiest kind of path of least resistance setup, because again, this is temporary. As a reminder, or if this happens to be the first of the series that you're watching, the 318 and the automatic in this are just going to be living in the car for long enough for me to get it cruising around, you know, just to be able to enjoy it, and also do like the shakedown on the suspension and stuff. I already have a 440 and a 4-speed manual for this car. They're sitting up at the workshop. So obviously with a 4-speed manual, we're not going to need a transmission cooler or any of that stuff. So I'm kind of okay. You know, we're literally just doing this to get it roadworthy, where it can drive under its own power and check out some of the other stuff. So I think actually, first things first, I'm probably going to take this upper grill support off. There's a couple things I want to poke around in here about anyway. So, you know, it'll be nice to actually remove the grill and give myself access to this, this whole area here. So looks like we basically just have the 4 bolts going on here. And looks like there's 3 that are supporting the top of the grill. I actually want to remove the grill as well, because these are currently not flipping out. The headlights turn on, but they don't rotate out. That side I'm straight up missing a motor for, so, you know, it's obvious why that one's not working. This side, not 100% sure what's going on, but the idea is for now to at least get them to not work the other way around, so I at least have headlights. And then I can come back and address how to get these things to rotate and everything like that. And as much as that's a mission for another day, doesn't hurt to give myself access to that area so I can work on it. And with just a few bolts at the bottom and just a few bolts at the top, we got this little guy off. And here is our little trans cooler. So it's not the smallest size they do, not the biggest size they do, but should do the trick for what we need. It actually came with hoses, clamps, all the mounting points and everything like that. I did get an extra length of hose just in case, because I may have to route mine just a little bit longer, because I have to kind of come under, and then probably going to have to avoid the little under brace at the bottom there and loop back around. So just in case I didn't want to run out of materials. So I'm going to figure out where on the radiator I want to mount this. Probably going to mount it like so, with the lines coming up into the bottom from what I'm seeing so far. So because the hard lines have a nice flare at the end, I feel like basically I could just put the rubber line over that, which is what I've done on this side. And I do have a hose clamp that I just need to slide back, and I can put that over the flare, clamp it down. That should provide a pretty good seal. Worst case, you could always double clamp a line like that as well. And I basically have just run it underneath, and I've kind of popped it up through here. And my thought is that basically the hose can kind of come around and back up, and I'll probably cut it somewhere right about where my thumb is there, and then the cooler can sit up a little higher just to give the line room to kind of make a more lazy curve instead of being like kinked or anything like that. All right, so we've got it roughed in. These are just the little mounting kind of tab things that poke through the radiator. It does come with the little foam standoffs that a lot of these come with. I ended up placing that between the transcooler and the radiator, so I actually just stuck them to the back of the transcooler. Again, that way they're not glued to the radiator, because this is staying and this is eventually going. So I've cut my hose to length there. I'm gonna drop a hose clamp over that and put it on that fitting right there. And then we're gonna work on doing the second line after that. And just to show you what I mean, if you've never worked with these before, they literally just poke through like this and kind of act like zip ties. You basically just put this guy on and basically that pulls it tight. But if you do want to take them off, you have to cut them and buy new ones. All right, so hoses are connected, and I guess at this point we just need to tighten up the connections that mount the actual cooler itself, and we're pretty much there. So I got my clamps on down there, and we got our clamps on under here. Normally I would spend a little time and try and go better than this if I was keeping all of this, but that should be good enough. So I have slipped these guys over, and basically I'm just gonna press the cooler back up against the radiator like so. And then we're going to slide these into place. All right, so now that those are on, I did notice this little guy right here, which I'm wondering if that's just like where a wasp nest used to be, or if that's some sealant or something. So I started putting a little bit of water in the radiator here. See if you can even see it. Anyway. The good news is it wasn't bone dry. It actually started to fill up to a level that I could see pretty quickly. In earlier clips, you probably noticed this hose wasn't here. I just had some of this hose laying around, so I put that on and routed it through the convenient little hole down there. So now, just in case we do have an overheat situation, it doesn't just blow it straight to the engine bay. It'll at least put it out under the car. But we have a coolant leak, and looks to me, because it's there, like most likely it's coming from this lower water pump line here. So moving back from the radiator, now we're gonna dip the transmission and see how much fluid is in it, and I guess start putting some ATF in there. And in a moment of genius, I remembered actually dipping it while it's cold and has just sat is not the way to do it. You gotta actually let it come up to temperature, and I believe have it in park, all that jazz, and dip it while it's idling. So I went to start the car, and the battery was not cranking as strong as I'd like, so I got it on a charger. And so I just basically decided to do some vacuuming. And like with all these steps, it's starting to look incrementally better each time. After about 100 rounds, it's gonna look pretty clean. All right, so it's later in the day and the battery's had a chance to charge. So I think we're gonna take a stab at firing this thing up and see if we have a transmission fluid leak. And in the previous video, you guys probably saw this thing run briefly, but from behind the car. This time I'm gonna bring you inside the car with me so we can see what it sounds like from inside. And as another small upgrade, I actually reinstalled the ignition in the dash, so I don't have to reach underneath anymore. Upgrade. All right, let's see what we got. Come on, little girl. She got compression. There it is. A little loud. All right, so now we've suitably pissed off the neighbors. See what we're dealing with. I did put it through reverse and drive, just holding the brake. Theoretically, I'm thinking that might, change the pressures inside the transmission, maybe get some of the fluid moving around a little more. So let's go see if we got leaks. Well, from what I can see, it's just the same coolant leak I discovered earlier, basically just from this hose right here. Basically the bottom of that hose looks like it's leaking. but it's also, the hose is too long. So honestly, I'm thinking maybe I can just pop that off, cut it a little shorter, maybe clean up the surface on that water pump and put it back on, see if we can get a good hose clamp on there. Maybe that'll resolve it. But our fittings, there was no transmission fluid leaking from the hoses there. And up front here, no leaks from our new connections there. And you know, I would have liked to get them on a little further, but those hose clamps are where they're supposed to be. The barbs are, you know, further down. These are pretty long fittings. So it should be good for now. So it's a good start, honestly. Now, I did discover that the engine mounts on this thing, unsurprisingly, seem like they're pretty shot. The motor has quite a bit of movement to it, so I'm going to double check and make sure it's not something loose, but my guess is they're probably just blown out, which, hey, is what it is. You know, as long as they don't, you know, fully come off, we're fine. It'll get us down the road. And I'm now in that weird spot where it's a matter of I kind of probably need to get an exhaust on this thing and get it registered. To effectively shake it down and be able to do the next phase, which is kind of, you know, fully leak checking it, letting it come all the way up to temperature, stuff like that. Can't really get it all the way up to temperature open header because it's got to sit here idling probably for 5 or 10 minutes, and you heard how loud that was. Actually, I'm going to take a second and show you guys the interior as well. If you guys are newer to the 66, 67 Chargers, you may not have seen this before. So obviously the dash is pretty cool. They're known for the electroluminescent gauges, which I will be tackling in a later video to see if these are working, half working, not working, whatever. So you got your wood grain steering wheel, auto shifter in the console, which is kind of neat. But speaking of the console, they are known, let me see if I can zoom out a little, check that out. So basically you got 4 bucket seats and a console that goes straight from the front to the back of the car, right? So it kicks all the way back there. And essentially, one of the other cool things you can do is, oh, maybe I gotta do the seat first. There we go. You can flop the seats down, and you can flop the console forward like that. I've got carpet to replace that. And that flops down as well, and you can actually put like skis and stuff back here, so this actually goes completely flat. So, you know, if you thought like the minivans were cool for having that now, 1966, baby. So anyway, that about wraps it up for this video. Just a little bit more progress, a little bit more exploring. I've got some more parts on the way for this thing. Predictably, being a classic Mopar, some of them are a little bit pricey, so you know, we're getting through it. Simple stuff though. I ordered some window cranks and door handles for the inside so that I can tackle that that window that's kind of halfway up. You know, just some other small bits and pieces. So it should keep things marching along, but my hope is that in the next video we can start to kind of get some things even closer to an actual proper shakedown drive, and maybe even see if we can get this thing out to an exhaust shop. Because as much as it's kind of fun having it super loud like that, obviously I don't want to live with that on a regular basis. And you can't have a car named the Cherry Bomb Charger without it having like cherry bombs on it, right? So if you've liked this video and it's been fun seeing the Cherry Bomb Charger fire up from the inside and you want to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. It's a great time to do it. Please don't forget, because again, we got some more cool content coming out on this thing. We also have some videos coming out on the 440 that we're doing up for this car as well. So eventually this thing will be a 440 with a 4-speed manual. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now, and go ahead and hit that little bell notification icon as well. That'll notify you every time a video comes out, and you can stay up to date with what's going on with this car. If you did like this video, take 2 seconds for me, hit that like button right now. It really helps to push it out to other people who are into, you know, classic Mopars or just classic cars in general, and it lets a bigger audience see it, and it really helps us grow the channel, which, you know, that's why we're doing this, and it's been going great so far, but we need your help. So thank you guys so much. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, these things are a little expensive, so if you want to support us in another way, consider hitting that Patreon. Every dollar helps, and it'll speed up moving this project along as well, because I'm definitely saving my pennies for this one. So thank you guys very much, and of course, we'll catch you on the next one.